Fuck yeah. Yeah. Cannot get over that. By the way, yeah, I've labeled that song "The Last Crusade." Hopefully, this is the very last. Um, yes. So a lot of important, critical type updates today. I would say of possibly one of the most significant out there right now. I don't know if it's being overlooked. I'm pretty sure that anybody seeing this probably has to be thinking the exact same thing. Hopefully so. But that being said, yeah, I don't know if you can tell, but yeah, these bags under my eyes. It was another late night, but actually early morning, I guess. It was about 4 o'clock in the morning is when it all kind of cut down. Um, the summer season means that everybody's having they're going out a lot more, so the weekends are a lot busier. It was very interesting. It's very interesting. I will say that much. I will. It's not really anything near what it was weeks ago. Fortunately, I haven't seen anybody crawling on the ground at this point. I did see a lot of people just having a good time the way they should be. Um, just the usual. Nothing over the top, but it's interesting conversations with drunk people when they never when you're sober they're drunk. It's always interesting. I'm sorry. um I would like to start putting cameras in on some of these, but now that the vulnerable state in some is maybe I don't know maybe I just gotta make sure I'm getting proper consent. But that being said, I still managed to come home. Of course, you can't go right to sleep, can you? Ever? No, never. So yeah, it's got home about 4 o'clock. It probably went to bed about 6, up around 10. Still managed to get some more work on the website done. The collections are now completely done, and now we're going through the Velo code step by step. And yeah, we're gradually knocking that out of the park. Fortunately, this weekend will not be for naught. But yeah, that being said, is also as well of more somewhat more significance, and I'll go in depth into detail as far as I can without exposing too much because uh, it's top secret. It's top secret. It's confidential. There's a lot of confidentiality. It's brand new. I'll give you that. It's brand new. Conceived by a friend of mine, invented by me, invented and refined by myself, and of course put forth through all the motions to now make it into an actual real life product where I've been not I've been telling you about the direct connections with the companies regarding the hardware and components of the guitar itself, but there are other materials that have yet to be invented, that have just been invented, and let's just say that it would affect a lot more than just guitars in general. This has the ability to significantly impact the electronics industry entirely. that being said, there is a well, yeah, I've already said that. Yeah, there's an EM shielding that we have devised, we have created that will give you 99.999%. You know, the closest, the most shielding that the closest to 100% that you could possibly get. Where I could legally say, where I cannot say at least 100%, we have to say 99.9%. Um, but yeah, the closest you can possibly get, and where that's significant in music and in the guitar, like we've just touched on in earlier sessions, is just like where the humbucker, the casing around the humbucker was created to kind of shield a lot of the excess noise, so that you're getting the closest to, the exact tone that's just coming from the guitar itself without anything else. And I'll give you an example. Like, say you're driving down the road, you're listening to the radio, and if you ever come across these spots where other stations start to blend in and bleed into the signal, that's exactly what we're talking about. Where a lot of the, if they're not properly shielded, and you know, we'll see. Um, in the most extreme case, I mean, a lot of times they're fairly well shielded as is. But if they're not shielded to the max, and you'll notice this between uh, high grade pickups and low grade pickups, is that when you uh, plug the guitar in, you turn the volume knob, all this other noise is coming out, and you're not playing or touching anything. That's exactly why this is important. This is why it's very significant in the guitar industry, because it's not something that we get really close with silver and copper. But anyways, I'll leave it at that. And I've just begun brokering a deal with the anyways, with one of the top manufacturing companies in the nation, if not the world, to get this product on the market. And under the understanding, the sole understanding, that they will be the only ones outside of myself, this company, manufacturing it in the world. That's the agreement. Those are the stakes. Uh, I've already secured all the paperwork and documents necessary to make this legitimately Pierce Acoustics. So you don't want it to fall into the wrong hands, because, as always, if used and abused, it can do, like I said, it can impact a lot of industries, both good and bad. And that's what we don't want to see. We don't want to see it end up in the wrong hands. And that's something that hopefully I can, by showing up to local legislation meetings, we can start progress in this. That if it does go the direction that I'm hoping or anticipating, that we use this, we can already do something about it. So that, it's the we want to prevent the opposite extremes from taking place here. And I think, going back and reflecting on a lot of early inventors and a lot of early inventions and the process that they've gone through, we can reflect and see that a lot of these preventative measures and forethought should be going through before you start putting anything of that, if anything of significant quality, on a mass market. And that being said, that's most definitely the first step towards um, Pierce Acoustics reaching the masses, and utilizing that will just, like I said, I don't want to, I'm not getting any outside investors, but I think partnerships and cooperations are very justifiable in business, especially when, there's a mutual understanding that benefits everybody in this. That's perfect. That's exactly what we want. We don't want one side, you know, monopolizing the other. So that's that being said, that's also in the works. And yeah, I guess without further ado. Oh yeah. We're also I'm working on. Like I said, I finished a few of the first initial test images for the merchandise. We're gonna go ahead and upload it. I've never done this shit before either, so we're gonna go ahead and upload that. We're doing all this shit ourselves, okay? We're doing all this shit ourselves. I'm doing all this shit myself, so that I can show all of you exactly how you can be doing this yourself, or at least show enough of an impact, enough of an initiative that you know that you can maintain some creative control over your creations, and hopefully to encourage creation. Period. Get out and make something, build something, please. That's exactly what we need to be doing. I mean, uh, right now, let's just, for example, the um, the steps that we're taking now with this electronic shielding that could potentially affect our electronics for the better. We'll say that our electronics are now more immune to electromagnetic interference, be it from any kind of source, even a weaponized source. So that already gives more peace of mind. Let's say even in the middle of a thunderstorm, that your power is not going to go. I don't fucking know. I'm just spewing all this shit out. But it goes to guarantee that if things are shielded and protected better, uh, they they can withstand a lot more. There's a lot of pressure from outside interference that's able to use um, EM tactics to kind of basically turn everything off. So, this could be one step further into, who knows, into making, giving us more peace of mind as we sleep at night. That also being said, by converting uh, our transitioning our usage of fossil fuels and gasoline, petroleum into hydrogen and water based fuels and alternative sources, we can also maintain and gain more leverage as as a nation. Now we're not. I mean, not saying that we're not refining our own petroleum at all. I'm not saying that. Not saying that we have stockpiles of this shit. Not saying that. I'm just saying that it's deadly and caustic to the environment, anyways. So for that reason alone, we need to be transitioning. But at the same time, there are, you know, um, outside organizations that are utilizing these funds, that if we could cut that off as well, we not only grow as a nation, we also start hindering other organizations from trying to take advantage and seize opportunities on our dependency on these. We use these to get to work while they utilize these funds to try and topple everything we're trying to do. It shouldn't be. Yeah, we need to be aiming for more creation. We need to be aiming for more productivity that would build us up as a nation. And that, my friends, is what will make America great again. Let's be realistic about that. That's the only thing. I don't always say again, but let's just say make America great. Fuck all that. It'll make America great, guaranteed. Those two, like I said, those two already. I'm just throwing those out there. Those two already. Let alone all the other uh, great ideas that are on the rise from individual entrepreneurs out there that are working their ass off to try and make the world a better place and forego any kind of apocalyptic situations before they start. And that being said, that be a perfect segue into the first topic, where I kind of had to stop and think. I really, honestly, and correct me if I'm wrong, go through and do some more research. We can do that live right now. Honestly, I have no problem doing that, just to ensure that this video is not artificially generated in any way. But I already know that everything in me right now is telling me exactly that. This video is fucking real. So let's get into the first topic. We'll get into the first topic, then we'll get into music news in just a second because I just heard a really cool. Somebody in the back, like I said, somebody in the back seat was telling me this as they had just come from a live performance. So I was really, really excited to hear about this. And especially since I've been following this particular individual on Twitter for the longest time, anticipating this particular. Anyways, we'll get into that. We'll get into that most definitely. But right now, like I said, I have to. We have to. This is serious. This is. This is. I cannot. I can't elaborate on just how serious this is. And I know it looks like a joke at first, and I'm desperately hoping that this is completely 100% artificially created video. I can't stress that anymore. I'm serious. This is serious. So that being said, jump right into it. I just come across this video.
China just deployed a
And
combat
not even joking.
robot alongside real police on
Is
real
that a joke?
streets. And if you think you've seen this somewhere before, you have.
Is it a joke?
In a
Is
movie.
that artificial? Let me know.
Except this time, it's not fiction. This is the T-800 by
That's not
Engine
the
AI.
T800. They wouldn't call it
5
the
feet,
T800.
8 inches
That's
tall.
crazy.
Executes spinning kicks. It fights with military precision. And it operates for 5 hours straight. Zero fatigue, no hesitation, and no emotion. It doesn't.
Is this
neither does it
real?
make emotion. It's bigger. China didn't just build one combat robot. They launched the world's first humanoid robot combat
Is this
league.
not an artificially
These robots
generated
fight
video?
each other in real matches, not to entertain, but to learn. Every fight sharpens their AI, teaches them something new about how to move and react, how to win. Analysts say this cuts AI development time by 30%. They're not just building robots, they're training soldiers. These robots are deployed, not in a lab or behind glass at a tech conference. They are on the streets, walking next to police, responding to real situations. While Americans are still debating whether AI is dangerous, China already answered the question by putting the answer on control. So here's the only question that matters. Are we watching a safety upgrade? Or are we watching China build something we won't be able to turn off? China just deployed a combat robot along.
Okay. So enough said. Enough said. That's exactly. I don't really have to. I don't really have to garnish any more on that. Like, as I've been trying to illustrate and trying to highlight, there are much more broader benefits. Not saying that this couldn't be useful in some way. I'm certain on the battlefield, maybe potentially, but even then, the fact that we're installing hate into the hard drives of these creations, these automatons that are now almost. I know that for right now, what you saw seemed like babies in training, infants trying to slowly but surely um, figure their way around. But as they've stated, they learn. They don't, they don't sleep. They don't forget. Their brain cells are fairly hardwired if they're using the proper materials, and like they, despite everybody saying a lot, and there's a lot of jokes about things that are made in China, they make everything at this point. So even though you think that some of your products might, some of your favorite products might be on the level because it's got a assembled in America sticker, make no mistake, majority of those materials were made in China, and a lot of those materials are very well made and very well fabricated. That's why, and I would not take this as a joke. If this was coming from Kazakhstan and Borat was demonstrating that, I would say, oh, okay, that's kind of funny, that's interesting. But this is coming from a nation that means business and that has, you know, risen. I'm not saying that they're doing great. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. But we should be taking note, and we really need to be paying attention to this. This first started for me when I was first introduced to the Titan robot. And if you don't know what the Titan robot is, I'll bring that up in just a second. I just I have to stop real quick because I need the answer now. I need to know China police robot. Is it real? It's fucking real. It's fucking real. It's not fucking real. They called it the T800. Did they really call it the T800? Why would you do that? Are they like, is that? Why would you do that? That's not even a sick joke. That's just sick. That's fucking sick. Those are movies. Those are good movies to watch with popcorn and the kind of not necessarily fantasize. I use the word fantasize loosely, but the kind of you know let yourself um, be taken into the fantasy for just a little bit. That's fine, but to make this real, to make a T800 and then deploy it and then teach it tactics that can kill. What the fuck are you trying to do? Like I said, for right now, for the time being, the fact that the stature is comparable, I still kind of feel like we got someone. If you learn a few things, you might, what I mean. You might have a chance. You might have a chance against a couple of those. I don't know. I mean, it's carbon fiber, but the joints, if you, I don't know. Yeah, I feel like just because the stature, with the stature being as is, it is a little bit less threatening immediately because you're not. We're trained to see this. If we don't see that, I'm not really as. I'm more passive when I see that. But still, I'm quite certain that the strength of those kicks are nothing to joke about. That can't be right. That cannot be right. That cannot be real. That's not real. Oh shit! Was this dropped a month? I just saw this now. Holy shit! I know I saw these, but I'm just starting to see that they're talking about an entire. Okay, so this is where AI gets out of control. I think it would have made much more sense to start with a David. It would have made much more sense if you wanted to do something where it was involved in, like Optimus or, the other whatever fabric robot that was. It does the dishes real quick, nice and slow. It irons it does the normal everyday tasks, like this is almost superhuman. Nobody has a chance against that. Nobody. No one. I don't know. I mean, like I said, maybe if you learn right tactics, you could block a few things. Like I said, the dexterity is there, but it's still it can stay. It's but this was 5 months ago. I guarantee. How much would have if um, taken in about 5 months? I mean, can we compare this to J5 at this point? Like, is it input? Is it really taking it in like that? I don't know. I gotta wonder. This is concerning. This is deeply concerning. I've seen a few of the small ones. I saw, the dancing, the ones that made it kind of seem like I didn't see this. In no way in hell did I ever know that it was called and labeled a T800. I think that's a sick joke. I think I gotta verify if they in fact if that company or is this just something that people are describing as a T800. Like, because that, I'm just saying, that's not even a sick joke. I would not joke about that. Wow, and they armed it, and they gave it a gun, and they gave it a gun. Why would you do that? Why? Like, I get, you might, and I don't know. I just think all kinds of things are wrong with that. The last thing you want to teach a child is pain, suffering, hatred, violence, period. And I've never been for sheltering a child at all. I've always wanted them to go out. That's why I feel it's entirely necessary to change the world for the better, knowing that they eventually have to walk out into that, into this, into this. But I've been more, homeschooling is one thing. You have the chance to structure what's going in, to what is a completely innocent and ignorant mind. This is the same thing. If that is a blank slate hard drive, you have every opportunity to teach it anything. And with that kind of dexterity, I'm sure it'd make one hell of a juggler. But you gave it a gun, and then you taught it to kill. Who's wrong here? Who's wrong? And who's to be upset when it happens? I don't know. I'm not even certain, because with the way that the news travels and works, because I'm actually cut off. They can't watch any of this in Russia right now. Any of everything that I'm talking about, they can't watch in Russia right now. So I'm certain the same thing might be in China. I don't know. But I do know, with the way news reports go, that if one of these had actually killed somebody in China, we wouldn't know about it. And that's the first thing I gotta wonder is, like, what's that news story gonna be like when you see the first robot slaying? That's not technically punishable by law at this point. I don't know. Is it punishable yet? Let me find. I don't know. I don't know if I want to Google that just yet. To be honest with you, I'm not gonna. I'll leave that to y'all to go ahead and Google that. But right now, I had to stop and look at that. And as I said, this particular statue to me is not as threatening. Though, look, this is carbon fiber, ladies and gentlemen. Make no mistake, this fucker's got a hell of a shell. But if we go, we type in Titan robot. Hopefully it's still here. This was back in 2010-ish. I say that loosely because they all string together now for me. I'm sorry, they do. They kind of string together. There we go. Yes. And as you can see, he would be wheeled out on this massive structure. He kind of dances slow, but look at the stature of this. And now let's put hand in hand what we've just seen previously in this shell, in a shell similar to this. And right now, fortunately at this point, this was completely animatronic. This was controlled by somebody. He would have a voice control and a remote control behind the stage or behind the scenes, and it would modulate his voice so it sounded like the robot. And then he would just do a little sing and dance number. He would just, he'd come out and he would entertain the crowd. And the first thing I thought right then and there was exactly that. Now I'm kind of, and as a kid, I'm fascinated. I love robots. I love this shit. I love technology. I love where it could go, the potential, without a doubt. Listen to the dynamic. Listen how powerful those strides are. Those are real deal hydraulics, ladies. Do not make no mistake. Whoever put this together, put it together right. I'm sure they didn't give it the titanium shell that we know it could have. But make no mistake, you are hearing real live. Those are powerful strides. Those are powerful strides. And while everybody's sitting back and enjoying the show, seeing it for what it is, and it's fairly harmless at the time, I'd have to say, I'm looking at this. I see this. I see the potential that, even though it was animatronic, had this particular individual had ill intentions in mind, I don't see what the potential, the capabilities. See, stop thinking like. Not saying that Hollywood ever has the answers, but occasionally there's an idea that we can learn from. That you know, make no mistake. At this point, this can be fully automated.
Look at all these wonderful children.
This
They spend the first 2 years of their life learning to walk and talk. And you spend the next 14 years telling them to sit down and shut up.
It's a very clever joke, but if you pull away the irony behind that, what he's initially saying, is that how we gradually learn and develop as we go along. You could literally just plug and upload whatever you wanted into that mainframe. So yeah, I'm sure it was singing, dancing. This was years ago. When was this? Let me find the date. Let me find the date. 7. I'm sure it was even before that. I'm actually certain it was before that, but we'll just say that was 7 years ago. Okay, and now people are building full-size exoskeletons, but 7 years, the progress you could have made, what they could have made in that time, I don't know. I'm just saying that it rings just a little bit, you know. And as I've said, it resonates. That's the word I'm looking for. Rings, resonates a little bit. But yeah, as I have said, that had anybody went ahead and decided to upload any kind of actual intelligence into that would create a formidable monster indeed. And I'm just gonna go ahead and put that out there. I see the upsides of AI, but I am now dramatically seeing the downsides. So I can see where the concerns are. I see where a lot of people can really, I do. Where I'm not gonna lie, only moments ago those concerns were gone for me. I was absolutely certain that I'm still kind of certain. If we can still try to influence local business, local industry, local markets, um, put forth the influence or the initiative to up raise up our local communities and not make this a rat race. you know and I hate to even I'm not I don't even want to use that analogy, to be honest with you, because I mean that is exactly what it is right now. If you don't look, we're the rats right now, just trying to scurry about and keep up. If you don't really pay attention to shit like this and what's really going on, you can't really be you're gonna be caught off guard, but you can't be surprised when it does. Like that's next level. That's next level. And to build an army, a squad's one thing. I'm sure just adding one of those to your team is gonna add. They only needed one RoboCop. Last I checked, they only needed one RoboCop. So I don't know why you gotta go out of your way to build an army. Oh, anyways, moving on. Let's try and just get involved. I knew I had to get involved. We have to get involved and get to know this much, much better. I do know that Optimus, with Tesla, Optimus is very well built and, you know, greatly improved from what we first saw, but it's nothing compared to that. We really need to step it up, guys. Yeah, I think after we get all of this done, we might need to open up an entirely new department. Yeah, I mean, I'm certain you know, we got something in the back, but I just, even then, to to actually even suggest that we should build our own robot army to combat another army only make only makes to me only makes it worse, because now you have increased the volume. You've just increased the numbers. Yeah, we'll pay close attention to this, because that's a scary thought. Not that I'm in, not that anything could really come out of this, but if anything ever did reach that point, we're already at a point where that, I mean, we were already concerned if they were going to push the big red button. I'd hate for them to push a button to deploy anything like this, or even worse. I don't know. Yeah, we gotta stay on top of this. And like I said, that's why I really want only one company. We really need to maintain absolute control when we're dealing with electronics. Period. Because it's not just when it does affect this market, it is going to help affect and improve the guitar industry, if not the electric instrument industry. Period. Anything that uses a magnetic pickup. Um, but anything that would improve its performance or relies on EM shielding could easily be impacted. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Something like that. Yeah, we don't need to have, it doesn't need to have all the bells and whistles. I just got to tell you that much. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, it's a scary thought. It is. It's a scary, scary, scary thought. But without further ado, that segues now into a music news on the positive side of everything going on right now. I have to stop and say that I am glad to say, I just heard, this is a reference that I heard at the backseat of my car from drunken rants that just happen to be true. And I'm very happy that they are. Yes, Twisted Sister is going back on tour. And before you say, oh yeah, there's another midlife crisis core, can't say we haven't missed them. Don't say that they're not easily recognized as one of the greatest bands in metal. And to really significantly impact and to the full, we know D. Snyder's legacy. Let's be realistic. It's great to know, and I've been keeping up with them on Twitter. I tell you, I've been following him the whole time, and he constantly hinting that Twisted Sister is making a comeback. Be on the lookout for something really amazing happening. And when I found out none other than Sebastian Bach of Skid Row is going to be filling in as the front man, considering that D. Snyder's he's been having problems since he's had these polyps of these growths on his throat, all that other stuff. I mean, I think he's probably in his 80s. I'm sure Sebastian Bach's up there too, but that guy's got the energy for 2 lifetimes. You can't say no to ever to Sebastian Bach. I cannot wait to see. I know he's grown. I'm certain he's grown, but he's another one of those that was born out of rock and roll. Rock and roll created this individual. There was no father. There was no father. Rock and roll was the father. And the triumphs, the tribulations, all the crazy stuff he's gone through, you have to stand back and look at the big picture. It's reasonable for somebody, and especially to be that young, to be thrown right into one of the most dynamic industries in the world at the highest levels that you can get, and then to not really know how to deal with any insecurities or anything, yeah, you're gonna jump off stage and do some crazy stuff. And to be honest with you, not that I was, not that I'm justifying it in any ways. You should always try to, and we've learned now, if you see most performances, most people know how to keep a level head and just let security take care of it. But it is just something about what gave rock and roll history, those crazy antics in the 80s, more depth and just more rich history and culture to reflect on. And he's another individual that's helped enrich that. And despite ending up with absolutely nothing for it to the end, kudos to Sebastian Bach for getting another chance, and hopefully running through and doing it right. I can see nobody else better to bring forth the impact that Twisted Sister brought. And yeah, that level. I don't I don't know if we I don't know. I have you gotta say I don't know if we can see him in a I don't know if we can see him dressed up in makeup or not. That's actually got me curious now. Is he gonna wear the wig? Is he gonna put on the wig? I mean, is he gonna do it? Who knows? I mean, I don't think. I think Dee's hair was real all the way. I'm not sure he wore a wig, but I think if you're trying to play the part for Sebastian, but knowing him, I'm absolutely certain he's going full on Skid Row. He's got to do it his way or the highway, and rightly so. I mean, you're being brought into this because you know of your yourself. You. How do I say this? Yourself. Your own product. Like everything that you're selling about yourself, included your personality traits, are coming with it. So you have to expect if you hire Flavor Flav, expect Flavor Flav to do Flavor Flav things. If you hire Sebastian Bach to do anything, expect Sebastian Bach to do Sebastian Bach things. And I'm eager to see those. I think it's about time we've gotten performances that go back to that. And I think that's why a lot of these are coming out of the woodwork. Not just for contractual obligation, mind you, but at the same time, you could easily say that it's not lacking in all bands, but the vast majority. I don't know. I don't know. There's actually, to be honest with you, I take that back because there is something that performances are somewhat making a comeback. And I know I know Gene Simmons would disagree with me, but I have to say that, yeah, no, some people are taking a cue and they're seeing that, when you see your icons on stage with you, and I know everybody's talked a lot about David Lee Roth lately too, in the same regard, but David Lee Roth is going to do David Lee Roth things. And anybody knows that, respects that. And anybody that shared the stage with him recently is like, that's why I got into this. And that's how you do it. They brought impact to the industry and they got famous for a reason. It wasn't just because they were incredible musicians, but they were incredible performers too. So you can see that is trying to slowly but surely making a comeback, and we need more of that. We definitely do. I mean, there is something to kind of just standing there and playing the parts, but I've always personally, and this is more towards the end too, where if I'll do it, fuck it, I'll do it. All right, this concludes. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, our music news for the day. You know what? As a perfect example, we'll go ahead and share this screen again. Add that to the stage, and I will remain quiet while this is playing. But to show you an example of what I was talking about, and this is why I felt that there were much better examples to our performance in other videos, in other performances, at other times, other dates, whatever. But this is a perfect example. This performance, and I as this was playing, I remembered things about it, but I started to remember even more things about it as it was going along. Was that I know and know to pay close attention. It's not that we're stagnant. I'll just say that there's not a lot of motion going on. It's not necessarily embarrassing. Like I said, this was kind of a refinement stage. So I saw why we chose this one out of particular. It might have been there. Maybe this was a time where in particular where they were actually recording at the same time. I think that might have been the case. I think that might have happened. It's been a long time. I hate to say it. A lot of this happens, but it's get it's a, I left it for good reasons, and like I said, I think it's just it is the perfect time at this point to try and jump back into it. But you can see, here we go. Hold on. So what is now labeled warfare? This is one of the songs that I originally wrote slightly before joining the band. Intro, chorus line, and on the spot we're standing there. Come on. Okay, yes. Once they on the spot they had wanted a chorus line, and I just made up a punk riff. I just felt for some reason I wanted to throw in a punk riff, and we made it work. If for some, it was a good transition to just kind of throw it all over the place. But I had to since taking that out, and I'm going to utilize it for something else. But this will show you not only the precursor of what is, what was, and what it now is. But let me show you. This is a demonstrate. This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is one of our previous performances from 2015 ish, 13 years ago. Well, this was uploaded 13 years ago. Let me do the math real quick. Hold on. 2013, if I'm right. 2013. Yeah. Damn. Okay. Time flies when. Well, time flies. You definitely understand that more and more. But that doesn't necessarily mean that now is not still happening right now. But still, anyways, that being said, outside all that, this is an example.
This is the field. Catastrophe. All is one. One is all. The fighting rhythm on the wall. We live when we die. Life was one.
All right, so I'll stop it right there, just to let you know exactly what I'm talking about. The audio so far is not bad, especially when I say that I'm certain I was completely wrong. This is audio probably just captured from the camera itself. It's probably a decent enough camera, but so the audio quality is not bad. And we had um, we'd honed the music, but the performance was not there. And after I kept going back and watching this over and after the first time I watched it, I saw it and I said, "Damn." So every time after that, I noticed something from one of my favorite icons, Hendrix, Jimi Hendrix. He always referred to himself as not being the greatest. He felt he was the worst, primarily because there were times where when he was so focused on the performance, he would miss a note or he would try to fix it and bend it to where it needed to be. It's a good skill, and recognizably what makes him the greatest was because he knew inadvertently. I don't think he didn't know, but he knew, but apparently apparently he didn't know, but what he should have known is that the performance is about 90% of why we go to see the show. The album is why we listen to the music. The performance is why we go to see the show. And that's what made him one of the best, is because he took what Pete Townsend was doing, what he saw all the Brits doing, amplified it. This is what we need. This is how you should be doing, and refined it and made it, rock and roll right then and there. And so you can see that in this, we're vertical. We're columns standing on either side of the stage. The drummer's going at it. He's doing his thing. Telf, my man, fucking doing the thing. He had it nailed. This was when he's probably he could just show up to the show and just do it and walk away. He had it nailed. So the three in front, we had to nail it. We had to refine it. And after this, I realized right then that no matter if I miss a note, fuck it, I sell it. That's what we're here for. And that's kind of what the band's there for too, to have fun putting on a show, not to feel tension and all this. Anyways. And at this point, he's clearly, he's fatigued, as you're gonna be. I mean, it's exhausting enough as is, as I've said, just wanting to perform vocally in front of people. So, hats off. You know what I mean? It's not easy to do. I can understand, even for myself. Even for myself, I had a pre-show ritual before I'd ever jump up there, even with the guitar in my hand. So it gets a little exhausting, but at the same time, we're all taking cues like, what the fuck do we do, guys? Like, we should have rehearsed that. We've been rehearsing the music so much, we never stopped to rehearse a single performance, a single, anything that makes the show worthwhile and come to see, some kind of spectacle, I don't know. Fuck, everybody mutilates a puppet on stage, so that's out. A light show, a fog machine. Oh, they got the lights. They had the fog. They had all that. I'm just some characteristics, that really give dynamics. There's something to say. Alice Cooper, who had refined this is, you know, the godfather of shock rock, the godfather of, you know, Broadway rock and roll performances, understood that very well. Iron Maiden took that to another level where they had a giant animatronic, non-violent robot in the background just going at it. Eddie is a great mascot. I think we should even consider some kind, you know, something. Not to really rip on anybody off entirely, because then that's what you're doing. It's like, oh yeah, if we're a rock band, we have to have a mascot. Not the case. But some kind of spectacle, something to kind of set yourself apart. Not a whore. Don't have to be a whore, especially not a ghost whore. But you know, something that just like a let me. No, kids, no. So, you know, like I said, as you can see clearly that, you know, there was some movement. There is some movement, and it was getting to that point. So, but everything after that, I made sure I was jumping up and down, off this, that way, that, you know, just running around, just projecting that energy, because you're not just projecting the energy with your music, you're projecting it with yourself. You're projecting the energy that's coming. It's not easy to describe, but anybody that's been to a live performance knows exactly what I'm talking about. So I don't think I really have to go too in depth into that, but that's what you're trying to do. And just, yeah, for an example of what that song sounds like now and has translated to. Considerable difference, but no offense, Pan. No offense. No offense to Panda. But you can see, yeah, very much the same. Very much the same, but refined. And of course, the transitions are definitely more refined there as well. But um, the same thing kind of rings true. That where the music has the impact, and it had the impact, it still has the impact. At least as far as I'm concerned, I feel like it has the impact. I feel like it has the impact, anyways. If you go back and look at how we're playing it, you wouldn't. I wouldn't take that band seriously. Let's just be honest with you. With ourselves, with everybody involved. I wouldn't take that seriously, and I did my. That was the one thing that I felt like that was really lacking overall, and it's very, very important when we're talking about live performances. Which, like I said, getting into all of this definitely is about time for that comeback. It's about time to see that. Have I? I still haven't. I don't know. I'm still, and this is another danger. Like I've been saying, when so many ideas are coming so fast, so quickly, it's very difficult. Trends are right now, in at least in this particular genre of music, are moving very fast, and it's very difficult to, like I said, you want to, as at least as a rock and roll band, or most bands, I think, you want to pay tribute, you want to honor the genre that's came before you. You want to jump into the genre and fit into the genre. So it's sensible to have similar looks, similar color schemes, similar designs, similar backgrounds, similar ideologies, personalities. A lot of that's going to transmit, it's going to rub off, but without the risk of being too cliche, without the risk of doing everything that everybody else is doing, what has already been done. I don't know. I don't know. I haven't quite. I'm still trying to give it some thought. I'm still trying to give it some thought. Food for thought. If anybody has any ideas, that would be incredibly useful. I do know that something. There is something sometimes just to going up in jeans and a t-shirt too. Let's not get away with that. But at the same time, it is always cool. Not that everybody wears the same uniform. Let's not go back to the 50s or 60s. That got so overdone. It's not even funny. I think it was the Beatles. The Beatles saw it and they saw it quickly. Enough was enough. But to have unique flair, style, not necessarily sequins, um, not necessarily makeup either. Though I know it's a big part of the gimmick of the genre. Um, like I said, that gets so overdone so fast. There's only so many ways that you can put black and white makeup on your face. Let's be real. And now come to find out, Randy Newman. I just found out Randy Newman did it too. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that either way. I don't know. It, Toy Story, the the lyrics and some of it was creepy enough without seeing how he displayed himself. I don't know. So I think makeup's off. I think makeup's definitely gonna be off. But I did garnish the idea of this Willy Wonka like character, but without looking too much like other characters. It's maybe if I could just refine it into something. And then you try to throw the technology and the automation into that. That's been done too. I mean, what's the band? Who remembers the band? Oh my God, they just started going on tour again too. After the late great, um, the former frontman had passed away. Oh, shit. Oh, Static X. Static X. He comes back as a robot, and oh God, I hesitate. Um, but there's another great guitar player that goes full body paint and has always looked like a Martian, and then of course Corey Feldman. Yeah, I know that. I know that. Uh, um, it might be time to just bring it back to the thrash era. I've always admired the thrash era. I've always admired, ripped off. But then that started because, that could almost be the early 2000s. That could almost be the emo alternative era too, where everybody started wearing black skinny jeans and a band T-shirt. We felt like that was what was necessary to make yourself look like a rock band. I mean, there's something to having holes in jeans. Let's be realistic. We fell in love with it for a reason, but it shouldn't. I don't know. I don't know. I guess I just focus on the music first, but at the same time, like I said, the performance is a big deal. Is a big deal. To why anybody goes to, I mean, Gore. If anybody goes to a Gore concert, anybody's ever been to a Gore concert, I hesitate. It's not for every audience. I will openly admit that it's not for every audience, and especially even now. I think they got in some big trouble for what they just did, but they've always done that. I mean, I don't even think we would have batted eyelash if they'd have done it to Clinton. Like, come on, it's they've always done that. We loved it when they did it to Hillary. Not Hillary. Hillary. What's her name? The Hilton. Paris Hilton. They did it to Paris. But it's just they know and they stay. What's cool is they actually stay in character when they're on any when they're performing anywhere. They stay in character, so that takes it to an entirely new level. I don't know what suits it, what fits, what fits. I don't know. Figure that shit out as I go along. But right now, yeah, we'll focus more on the music elements. I do want to tie in, like I said, it's first and foremost the most important to just be singing and playing at the same time. Something I've always wanted to do. Always looked up the individuals that do, and yeah, there we have. I think we've made some good headway on it. But um, yeah, I think that without further ado, I think that almost gets to the nitty gritty of everything. I gotta go back. I do. I got to. I can't not take advantage of the weekends. Like I said, it's just you'd be a fool not to. There's a lot of things, and reality's a bitch. There's a lot of things we have to pay for in our day-to-day life. So there's a lot of things I'm still paying for, but a lot of this is going to go to good use and is going to good use. And fortunately, with a lot of these partnerships that are taking place, it won't necessarily have to rely on any direct large investment. We can do this in baby steps and gradually get there over the next couple months. I mean, we're making some seriously good headway, man. I we that's why I say we as a nation, because I say if I win, we win. Oh wait, no, hold on. Beforehand, wait a minute. Let me give you a sneak peek. As I do, I want to set that up real quick before I go. That way, you know what? Maybe not. I got shit to do. I do. I got shit to do. Fuck. Tomorrow for sure. I'll tune you in on that. It'll by that time it'll already been uploaded. Everything will be linked and ready. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and what I feel like I have to do is I have to order one for myself. As I said, had initially. If you go back to my first page, the earlier in Facebook back around 2020, you could see that I started printing out my own merchandise, but I'd accidentally, when you go through Temu, it wasn't even Temu at the time, but when you go through those I had accidentally bought child sizes. I forgot that adult sizes in certain parts of the world are child sizes here, but there's ways, and I've just looked into it that eventually I'll um, take it apart and convert it to an adult size. And yeah, we can forego a lot of the. It'd be good to have just customized merch on hand. I don't know. It's just always been a dream of mine to be able to just wake up one morning and think about a t-shirt idea and instantly be able to make it into it. But I think this is the next best step. In this way, this particular company, they print it on demand. That's what's going on. And so it's not, as soon as you want it, it'll still be there. I don't know. I've always liked to be able to just walk around with t-shirts and stuff too. So that's what I think. I want to have some on hand. And of course, I want to make sure that they're coming out right personally. And if they work out right that way, if you've seen anything previous before that, all of the graphic, oh my God, all of the graphics that I've been working on and finally making, I think, let me see. So there should be some of it. If you go to, and it's because I've lost access to my earlier Matt Pierce social media. As one does, you forget passwords to almost everything when you're creating password from one to the next. And of course, any and all of those emails that did exist, email addresses that did exist at one point. I mean, I've had so many since then. They just got lost and it's just gone. All access is gone. But it does. All of the media of it is still there, and you can see what I've at least been working towards. And if what I've done is I've refined the aspect and the resolution so that if this does work the way I want it to, this won't just be a little icon. This won't just be a little thing. You'll be walking around in style. You know what I mean? Like that. There's no reason to not. I've always like. There's something to having just a logo, just a simple logo. And there's a couple I've designed that are just a simple logo. But when you have the ability, why not go all in? Why not? The purpose of what I'm doing here and when I'm doing all of this in house means that, and this is something that, and this is funny because I will end on this. This is something when I've recently been giving ride shares, especially in a college community, when we're discussing. I'm sorry, the education levels and the degrees that we're reaching for. One conversation actually went to like I didn't even make it through the first semester. I wept for that generation right then and there. The dates they were with were going for like surgical degrees and like X-ray technician, and they're with it. I could just see the conversation going south from there. But it highlighted a few key details within that conversation, where personally, I can only I have some schooling, especially in digital media. I have almost a year's worth of schooling in digital media before I found out what happened. But I've relied mostly on initiative and the information and the tools that we have available to us. It's it goes without saying that if you want to learn something, you can, and if you have the initiative and the ability to learn something, why not take it to the doctorate's degree? Why stop at the associates? So, if you're going to learn something and learn it well. And if you're going to do something, do it and do it very well. So that being said, if we have the ability and we have the ability, I've been doing graphic media design for almost as long as I've been a musician. So if that gives you a little bit of idea of what to expect. And like I said, if you go to my previous pages, you can see the graphics designs that I was working on then that could make some really killer graphic tees. And I cannot wait. That would be another 13 plus years in the making to finally see that. So yeah, just get ready to see that grin, that all the way from ear to ear as I introduce the next live stream wearing one of those, because I'm not going to be able to hold the excitement back. But yeah, let's go ahead and we'll end it here. Go ahead and play us out, guys. Play us out. Pretty good this time, you know. I think we definitely hit on some key points that I really hope that everybody stops for a second and really puts to the forethought of your day to day, you know, because this is not going anywhere. It's not going to disappear overnight at all, unless we really get involved and start to understand it, not to be scared of it, but to face it head on, the right way, the righteous way, I guess. So as always, keep it heavy, keep it original, and keep it easy, guys.